Who is the Antichrist? Gorbachev, old man Mikhail Gorbachev, is definitely, without any question whatsoever, the right answer. He is the Antichrist, and the evidence is overwhelming. The Bible says, Daniel 8, verse 25, in the KingJamesVersion, that the Antichrist, by peace, quote, by peace he will destroy many. Now, Gorbachev is the one that made peace in the late 1980s. And the reason he did it was to get America to disarm, so that when Russia attacked us, our retaliatory arsenal would be so small that Russia could shoot it down with their interceptors that are called ABMs, anti-ballistic missiles. In other words, he made peace in order to destroy us. And the way it works is, he makes peace, we get impressed, we celebrate, or we show our gratitude by disarming, and then we get hit. Now, this process has taken 30 years so far, and we're at the end of the road. We have disarmed enough so that Russia can just bomb us and destroy most of our arsenal on the ground, and then shoot down the puny arsenal that we have left. We have cut back so much, we have disarmed so much, that the Russians are not going to wait any longer. Gorbachev is 87 years old. He doesn't have much time left. He wants to rule the world, so he's going to press the button very, very soon. I expect it will be Pentecost Sunday, May 20th, or Pentecost, the Jewish Pentecost, May 19th. That's 3 days from now or 4 days from now. The main thing to remember whenever it does happen is that Christ will avenge our loss, and he will come very, very soon. The second coming will defeat Gorbachev, the Antichrist. It will happen just 5 months after Russia's victory. That's the 5 months is found in Revelation 9, verse 5 and 10. But let me get back to the issue at hand, the evidence that Gorbachev is definitely the Antichrist. Nostradamus spoke of 3 antichrists, each one much worse, each one in succession much worse than the previous one. Napoleon was the first one. Hitler was several times worse than him, and Gorbachev will be several times worse than Hitler, because Gorbachev will launch nuclear war, killing, let's say, 50% of the U.S. population, because Christ spoke of 1 out of 2 being taken. 1 will be left, and 1 will be taken. That's Luke 17, 34 through 37. Now, Nostradamus spoke about a 27-year war. Now, sometimes his statements are sort of an anagram where you have to rearrange things to get the real message. And what I do is I take this 27-year war, I apply it to the 27 years that Gorbachev has been pretending to be retired he's pretending that he is no longer in power, when in fact he is the puppet master behind Putin, who is his puppet. Now, he resigned at the end of 91. If you count from 92 onward, from 2000, from 1992, the beginning of 92, to 2000 would be 8 years. Then you add 2001 through 2018. That's 18 on top of 9 years. 9 and 18 is 27. And so the message is that after 27 years, his war of deception will be over, and he'll launch a nuclear war, and that lasts for a half hour. But anyway, I just throw in Nostradamus because his mention of the 27 years. Here's some more evidence that Gorbachev is the Antichrist. Number one, his name adds up to 666. If you go by the same system that was used with Nero. Nero was a type of the Antichrist. What you do is you take his name, the letters of his name. Well, first of all, you take the language, the first 9 letters of the language. We'll go by Russian here to be more simple. Make it simple. The Russian alphabet, you take the first 9 letters, you count them as the ones, 1 through 9. The second 9 letters are the tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, up to 90. And then you have the hundreds, 100, 200, 300, so on. Then you take the Russian spelling for Gorbachev. It adds up to 636. And so we're sweating a little bit, and we take the letter M, and lo and behold, it adds up to 30. That's exactly what we're looking for. It's a perfect 666. M, Gorbachev. M is for Mikhail. Now, the same system was used with Nero. Neron Caesar is supposed to add up to 666 using, I don't know, Greek or Latin. I forget. I used to know, but it's Greek or Latin, if not Hebrew. But one of those languages, you use the counting system that I just explained. The ones, the tens, and the hundreds. You use the letters of the alphabet. One more thing. There are 2 letters that are basically the same letter except for some mark above the letter. And what you do is you have to count them as 1 letter. And, okay. Mark of the Beast. Gorbachev has a nice birthmark on his forehead on the right-hand side. And we can take that as a fulfillment of the mark of the beast that's in Revelation 13. Now the only trouble is, Revelation 13 says he will make other people take that mark. It doesn't say he will have that mark himself. But still, we can take that mark as a fulfillment by having Gorbachev himself bear a mark that can be counted as the mark of the beast. God is trying to make it simple for us, trying to make it clear to us who the Antichrist is. But even with God putting a mark on this man's forehead, people still are so thick-headed that they don't get it. One last point. Gog, the ruler of Magog. We can say that Magog is Russia, of course, because in Ezekiel 38 and 39, Magog is to the far north, the uttermost north, the extreme north, and that would fit Russia. And it says Magog is a ringleader nation. He has many follower nations doing his bidding, doing in the alliance that Magog heads up. And Russia is a ringleader nation. And so Russia does fit what the Bible says about Magog. I'm going to show, well, first of all, let me say that Gog can simply be a glimpse or a fraction or the beginning of the name Gorbachev, because Gorbachev starts with the letters G-O, and Gog is the letter G-O-G. Now the second G is basically just a repeat of the first G. Basically the word Gog is the letter G and the letter O. And so we do see a parallel or a correspondence between Gorbachev and Gog. Now I need to show that Gog is the Antichrist. And once I do that, then you can see that if Gorbachev is Gog, then Gorbachev is the Antichrist. Now here's the evidence that Gog is the Antichrist. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 7 and 8, it says, the purpose of the second coming of Christ is to destroy the wicked one, who is also called the man of sin and the son of destruction, in verse 3. Now, there we have it. Christ will destroy the Antichrist, and that is the purpose of the second coming. But in Zechariah 14, we have the second coming, because it says God will stand on the Mount of Olives, that's Jerusalem, which has to be the second coming, because when Christ left the world in the ascension, he left from the Mount of Olives. That's what it says in Acts 1, verse 6 through 9 or 12. And the idea is the two angels that were there says Christ will return in like manner, which would suggest what? Return to where he left, the mount, which was the Mount of Olives. So we have to count Zechariah 14 as the second coming. The appearing of God there has to be the second coming. And there, the purpose of the second coming is to destroy, or to defeat rather, the invasion of Israel. And so the leader of the invasion should be the Antichrist. And this same invasion of Israel is described in Ezekiel 38 and 39, and there the leader of the invasion is clearly given. It is Gog, the ruler of Magog, which is Russia. And so we see there is evidence that Gog is the Antichrist. And therefore, if Gorbachev is Gog, then Gorbachev is the Antichrist. I rest my case. Just as something a little bit humorous to throw in, way back in 1985, when Gorbachev was they were supposed to be the Politburo or some committee in the communist hierarchy was supposedly going to vote on who to elect as a new leader of Russia. Now, I'm describing this vote as sort of bogus because Gorbachev had already taken power even during the reign of Chernenko. Anyway, let me cut to the chase. Andrei Gromyko said to his fellow, the people on this committee that were getting ready to vote, he recommended they vote for Gorbachev as opposed for the other guy whose name was Romanov. There was a contest between the two. And Andrei Gromyko said, this man, we should vote for this man. He's got a nice smile, but he's got teeth of iron. Teeth of iron. Now that is a direct quote from Daniel 7. That's Daniel 7, verse 7. Now in verse 7 it's talking about the Roman Empire as the beast. But and then in verse 8, it jumps over to the return of the beast, and then it uses the term beast to refer to the ruler of the beast, and it's at that point that that would apply to Gorbachev. Gorbachev will be the ruler of the beast, which is the Roman Empire, which is talking about the return of the Roman Empire. We're simply talking here about the reunification of Europe under one-man rule, because that's the way it was during the time of the Caesars. Gorbachev will count himself a latter-day Caesar. Now let me add something extra to this video. What role does the Antichrist play in the timing of the rapture? Well, if you go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3, it clearly says, that day, talking about the day of the rapture, it's talking about the day which is first mentioned in verse 1, the day of our gathering and being gathered to Christ or by Christ, which is the rapture. Now we go back to verse 3. That day cannot come except there be a falling away first, which is the apostasy which is going on in Europe and to some extent in America. But forget the part about the apostasy. That day cannot come except the man of sin be revealed, the son of destruction. Now that part there, the son of destruction, can be interpreted as the destroyer. And so the idea is the rapture has to come until the revealing of the destroyer takes place. Now, the destroyer, when he destroys, that would be what reveals him to be the destroyer. Now, what is he going to destroy? Well, this is the Antichrist. The man of sin is the Antichrist. The destroyer is the Antichrist. Because in verse 8, it says Christ come to destroy him. The idea is this same man is given in Revelation 13:7. It says he will make war against the saints. That would mean the countries that are predominantly Christian, especially the leading Christian countries, like the ones in Western Europe. They have traditionally been the leading Christian countries. And we're the leader of the NATO alliance. America is the leader of the alliance with Western Europe. And so we're the ones in America, the Christians in America, are the ones that are going to get hit. For the most part, I mean, what am I saying? You know, we're going to get the lion's share of the destruction. The sudden destruction, which is given in chapter 5, verse 3 of 1 Thessalonians. My point was in connecting Revelation 13:7 with 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. The idea is the war that's mentioned in Revelation 13:7 is the destruction that the man of sin is launching, and so that would be what makes him the destroyer, what reveals him as the destroyer. Like I say, the rapture comes at that time. It comes at the time of the revealing of the destroyer, which means it comes at the time of the destruction, which reveals the destroyer. The Antichrist is launching the destruction against America and 3 countries in Western Europe, because Daniel 7, verse 8, mentions 3 countries being uprooted. Actually, it says 3 horns, but the horns mean kings, and the kings mean countries. So the idea is the horns mean 3 countries. So we see that the Antichrist plays a role in the timing of the rapture. Now, if you want to send me an email, it's joegrace@gmail.com. JOEGRACE. One last note. I'm putting a considerable amount of words under the video in the caption or in the description. So click on the little mark and get the description to come out and become visible, and you can get some Bible verses or Bible citations there after you see this video. One more note. The age of the Antichrist, Gorbachev, he's 87. This tells us the time of his launching this war. On the one hand, I'm sure he doesn't really want to do it, but on the other hand, he wants to do it. And so, because he doesn't have much time left, the part of him that wants to do it, he must be getting itchy fingers. Itchy fingers. He wants to do it as soon as possible. So that's another indication that the time is short. Short.